All right, everybody, Cinephile Mike is here, and it is episode 9 of Oscar Rewind Season 2, my bi-weekly series of videos dropping every Tuesday and Friday, where I revisit the films that reflect the work of this past year's Oscar nominees and winners. I love digging deep into those IMDb profiles, and my hope is that you will discover a new, older favorite, or revisit something you maybe haven't seen in a while. Now, as always, I'll be discussing the Oscar connection, awards history for the film, the box office information, the critical response, and as always, these reviews are spoiler free. Before I jump into the film, do me a favor, please click that subscribe button. You definitely want to come along for the ride this whole award Oscar rewind season. It's going to be a good one. So, as we continue through April, we are looking at the nominees for this year's Best Pictures. And the two films I'm talking about this week come from producers on a few of the different films. And these two this week, I'm talking and looking at a pair of biopics. And after last year's double feature of horror films, well, you know what they say, sometimes the only thing more horrific than a horror film is real life. There's a reason I'm not a stand-up comedian. What I want to say about the two biopics I'm talking about, both portray strong women at the front. We can learn some lessons from them at their resilience. So, I almost wish I had covered these last month in Women's History Month, so my apologies for that. But you know what? They're here, and I'm proud to dive in with both of them. First up, as I may have been a little harsh on The Apparition last week, and that came from a producer of A Complete Unknown. I want to go out with a stronger note for A Complete Unknown because I did enjoy that film. Alex Heineman was a producer on A Complete Unknown and The Apparition. Here, we're going to cover a few bases also because this film that I'm talking about today, Columbia Pictures' Girl Interrupted, was written with a team and directed by James Mangold, who was a three-time Oscar nominee this year for producing, writing, and directing A Complete Unknown. Now, Girl Interrupted, written by Lisa Loomer, Anna Hamilton Phelan, and Mangold, based on the memoir by Susanna Kaysen, released around Christmas time in 1999. The film made $28,912,646 domestically, with an additional $19,437,559 internationally, giving it a worldwide total of $48,350,205. Now, critically, this film was divided, with a critical score of 54% coming from 117 reviews and over 100,000 audience reviews, giving the film a fresh popcorn meter score of 84%. Now, award season wise, while Mangold himself wasn't nominated for this film, and this wasn't necessarily the first film he worked on, but it was the first film that he worked on that was Oscar nominated, and not just that, but Oscar winning. For this film, Angelina Jolie was the breakout and won Best Supporting Actress at the Academy Awards, the Golden Globes, the SAG Awards, the Critics' Choice Awards, and the Blockbuster Entertainment Awards, amongst many other nods and wins at varied film festivals and critic circles. Additionally, what worth noting for this cast, and I'm going to talk about it if you're not familiar with this film, amongst all the other accolades that this film received, it's worth noting that casting director Lisa Beach was nominated by the Casting Society of America for a feature film drama. Did not win, but should have. And if that name sounds familiar, in addition to being the casting director for Girl Interrupted, she has cast several other Oscar nominated flicks such as Walk the Line, Logan, Election, and About Schmidt. Now, as I said, Mangold was not nominated here. Girl Interrupted was his third feature film that he did write and direct after Heavy, Liv Tyler, and Copland with Sylvester Stallone. And in the last 25 years or so, in addition to his three nods that he received this year, he was also nominated for Best Picture, being one of the producers on Ford versus Ferrari. And his first Oscar nomination, he made history by having the first comic book film nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay, which was for Logan. Okay, so now that I've talked about all these award accolades, let's talk about the film. So we are here in the late 1960s in the New England area. We are in a time of the hippies and the Vietnam War. Susanna Kaysen, played by Winona Ryder, is a bit of a wandering soul, not sure what to do. She has graduated from high school. She's made some poor life choices. She has no plan, and in the midst of a nervous breakdown, just felt she had a headache, took a few too many aspirin, and ends up overdosing, almost dying. And so Being tricked to believing that it is her choice, but against her will, she is checked into Claymore, the local psychiatric hospital, and upon entering and signing in, she very quickly meets Valerie, played by Whoopi Goldberg, the strict but caring nurse who covers the ward. And once there, Susanna meets the cavalcade of other patients, including her roommate Georgina, played by Clea Duvall, a pathological liar who loves to get lost in the world of the Wizard of Oz books. Polly, nicknamed Torch, played by Elizabeth Moss, a schizophrenic who earned her nickname based on the savage burn marks on her face and body. We have Daisy, played by Brittany Murphy, a self cutter who suffers from various psychological issues as a result of abuse that will come out within the plot of the film. I'm not going to talk about them here. And probably most importantly to the plot, the charismatic sociopath Lisa, played by multi winner for this role, Angelina Jolie. Now, as we follow the roughly year or so in the life of Susanna as she attempts to grow and heal alongside her fellow patients, it will not be an easy path to recovery. Throughout it, we will see as Susanna's actions from her past come back to haunt her. Certain individuals she meets are not who they seem to be, and an escape from Claymore will have some startling repercussions for all involved. I keep the plot a little more simple here. I'm not going to go too deep because that's what it is. I won't spoil too much, and I'm not underscoring the psychological illness that is present on screen. I mean, this is very serious and needs to be addressed, and Mangold does a decent job of addressing each girl and their circumstances. Some a bit more, others there are a few other patients in the women's ward girls that I don't reference, and this is a bit of the problem I have with the screenplay. When I look back on it, I mean, when I first saw this movie, 25 years ago, I was very taken with it. However, as I have since grown and come to understand more of the elements of this film and really looking at it with the critical eye, I realize that the script is a little bit of disservice to these characters. Now, Mangold himself as a writer has grown immensely, and he has shown with other, products, Complete Unknown Logan, the work that he's written, and he writes characters well. I think with this one, he just maybe bit off a little more than he could chew. And trying to focus on all these characters and all these stories, the plot gets a little light and not dealt with as deeply. And the memoir actually is a little bit more gritty. I remember reading it when I was in college. So he probably kept it lighter to maintain to the audience. Obviously, they added dramatic theatrical effects, which the real Susanna Kaysen has come out and said she wasn't really thrilled with when the film was made. Um, but look, this was earlier in his career. As for the performances, though, I want to talk about those, and he crafts performances. Look, there is an absolute reason why Angelina Jolie was such a big breakout in this film. I mean, there's not a negative thing to say about that supporting performance. I mean, Winona Ryder is at the center of this film, and she does an excellent job anchoring the story. This is actually a nice solid performance for Ryder. But because she has to play kind of like the straight woman amidst this chaos, Jolie comes in with a whirlwind of energy, and her eyes are so magnetic. There are several times when the cinematographer, Jack N. Green, chooses to really shoot in close up and kind of leave us with her in the frame, and those eyes just pierce your soul. In her character of Lisa, she has opportunities where she goes from 0 to 60 in like 1.5 seconds. It's incredibly effective. Additionally, in another powerful supporting performance, Murphy is so the anti Ty that we know from Clueless. She also has some quiet moments and then some explosive ones where you are completely enthralled at this tortured girl that she depicts. Now, at the time that this movie was released, coming into the turn of the century, it was really a great showcase for the talent that has really come up in the years. In addition to the aforementioned, and I mean, like I said, Brittany Murphy, Clea Duvall, Elizabeth Moss, Winona Ryder. This cast also included Jared Leto as a love interest for Ryder Susanna. Bruce Altman and Mary Kay Place played a couple with a tie to Susanna's past. Vanessa Redgrave has a turn as Susanna's therapist, Dr. Wick. This was just a big cavalcade of stars and a lot of great names. Lisa Beach truly did an incredible job with the casting here. And, if you look at Lisa's body of work, you won't be surprised. Again, perhaps this is the issue. Too many characters. Susanna should really be at the forefront. And yes, while this is her story and we follow her journey, it gets a little muddled. And when we get to the end of the narrative, it doesn't really feel like we've followed a narrative, more that we've had these little vignettes. And yes, okay, a little predictable, worth the watch, but you are going to kind of figure out where this is going to go by the end. So you almost have to wonder again, script. But again, Mangold has proven to be worth the Oscar Gold nominations. He's been running for this year, especially as producer, writer, director. He's tackled several projects across many mediums and genres and sold just solid. I feel he actually gets better with each film. And he's also produced a lot of great films. If you check out his IMDb, they didn't write or direct. There's some really solid work there. So look, this is an early film for him, and in some ways, it does stand the test of time. It puts these female characters at the front and center. Is it a definitive film? No. Is it the be all end all for a film that really evaluates the impact of psychological illness? Unfortunately, not. You want a little bit more, but look, Girl Interrupted is a good 3-star film, and you know, years ago I might have given this one a 4, but really studying that plot, I can't help myself. I got to go down a little bit. If you would like to see Girl Interrupted, if it's been a minute, you can catch it right now, currently streaming on Paramount Plus. So, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Oscar Rewind. If so, please make sure you click that subscribe button, like and share the video, get more people into the conversation. As always, you can follow me, Cinephile Mike, on all social media platforms and on Letterboxd, and find lots of great additional cinematic content on my website, cinephilemike.com. All right, happy watching, everyone, and until next time, this is Cinephile Mike saying take a break and watch something new.